All right. For those of you joining us, this is the Danville Town Council meeting that will be starting shortly.
All right, I'm going to give Karen just another couple minutes to.
Actually, she's in the attendee list.
Okay,
Marie.
Yeah.
Maybe we could bring her over.
We certainly can do that.
And there she is.
Like magic.
Oh, sorry, wrong background.
I thought I had a dog looking at me. It was very cute. Okay, well, why don't we go ahead? I'll welcome everybody to Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. This is our regular meeting of the Danville Town Council. This meeting is now called to order. I would like to ask our City Clerk, Marie Sunseri, to please do the roll call.
Yes. Councilmember Fong,
Here.
Councilmember Stepper,
Here.
Councilmember Storer,
Here.
Vice Mayor Arnerich,
Here.
and Mayor Morgan.
Here.
All council members are present.
Great, thank you. Are there any announcements?
Yes, this meeting is being held by teleconference only on Zoom, and a recording of the meeting, as well as any written public comments, will be made available on the town website. To provide live comments during this meeting, use the raise hand feature in Zoom. And then when the mayor opens up the item to public comment, raise your hand. Your name will be announced and only your audio will be enabled. You're asked to state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. And that's it for the announcements. We did, oh, and just to note that we didn't receive any written public comments in advance of the meeting today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our pomp and circumstance, which is our Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And today we have a special guest from the Contra Costa County Library Commission, who is our Danville representative. I'd like to ask Nicole Gemmer if she would mind leading us today in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I would be honored. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. And we will see you later in the agenda. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is item number 3, which is changes to the order of the agenda. Are there any changes to the order of the agenda?
Madam Mayor, I would like to pull item number 6.4 off of consent. We will reschedule this, bring this back to you at a future meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. And that's Joe Calabrigo, our town manager. We'll go ahead and move on then to item number 4, which is for the good of the town. The good of the town is the opportunity for the public to address the town council on items that are not on the agenda, not on today's agenda. So please limit your speaking to 3 minutes. Marie Sunseri will start a timer. At that time, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. At the very end of that, if you could wrap it up. And like I said, these are items that are not on the agenda this evening. So Marie, do we have anybody under the good of the town that would like to address the council this evening?
Let's see, that currently we have a couple of raised hands. So
Okay.
the first speaker will be Veronica Benjamin.
Veronica, are you there?
Yes, once again, Madam Mayor and Honorable Town Council, just would like to say hello. And again, I just come for the sake of the public record. And I know that you're all working really hard. And I know that you've served our town for decades, in some cases, as long as I've been alive. I just like to come here to just remember the two men who were murdered in our town. And just this week, I just like to highlight what I consider a really good a contrary position, a potential different outcome that could have happened for Latimer and Tyrell had kind of everything been hunky-dory. Last Monday on the 9th, there was a traffic incident in Danville. I'm sure you're all well aware, near Diablo Road in Ackerman. There was a Danville resident, 31, similar age to Tyrell and Latimer. He was speeding, and an officer attempted to pull him over for a traffic stop. He attempted to hit the officer twice, who was on a motorcycle. He injured the officer in question, and I hope that officer is doing well and recovering from his injuries. But, you know, he was allowed to drive off, and he was later apprehended at Las Trampas, somewhere on the Bollinger Canyon. And so he was arrested, and he's facing charges, and he's booked to Martinez. I don't know where that is in that process. But, you know, I heard this story, and I thought, I wonder the color of his skin. And I confirmed it by looking at the court records that he was a white man. And I just bring this up because I know some of you maybe aren't that supportive of the saying or the movement of Black Lives Matter, but for me, this is a perfect illustration that when a white man does something, you know, illegal, his life is still treated as somehow precious. You know, the officer didn't immediately pull out his gun and start firing at him just because he was doing something dangerous, which is how I feel Latimer and Tyrell were treated in this town. And, you know, an officer was able to shoot and kill both of them because to a certain degree, somewhere in his head, their lives did not matter. As much as someone who he could humanize and he could think, oh, this person probably has a family, maybe this person even has a son. So again, I like to commend the officer who was involved in the last week's incident for showing how a policeman can deal, or woman can deal with someone who is dangerous in a non-fatal way. And again, just to highlight, as a person of color in this town, what it feels like to feel devalued, to see how easy it is for life to be taken away when there's other options, when there's other ways to preserve life and also protect the law. So those are my comments for today. I'd just like to, again, thank you all for your service. And I'm preparing some proposals to submit to you shortly. So I'll reach out to you, Madam Mayor. So thank you again.
Well, thank you, Veronica. I look forward to hearing from you. Marie, do we have any other?
Yes, the next speaker is Stuart Proctor.
All right. Good evening, Stuart. I recognize that name. How are you this evening, Stuart? I believe he's on mute.
All right, thank you. I'm
There
doing
you are.
well.
Great.
Very nice to see your faces. May I go ahead?
Yes, absolutely. Please.
I'm just wanted you to know, and I put in a word, something that I think you may already have in the works, but one of the things I most appreciate about our town and its history is we always stand up and recognize people who have excelled or otherwise brought wonderful positive attention to our community and our town. And I couldn't help but be totally engulfed during the Olympics of the amazing accomplishments of Maggie Steffens. As you may know, and those of you who followed the Olympics, obviously she's a tremendous athlete, a Monte Vista High School graduate, and she's a water polo player. And she has accomplished a tremendous amount. And you may, some of you will know this already. I don't need to belabor it, but she's considered one of the best water polo players in the world. And she has now helped the U.S. Olympic team win its third gold medal, appeared in an earlier Olympics with her sister, who's also a former water polo player, and her family is from this area. And the USA Water Polo website lists Maggie's hometown as Danville, California. And I think that is pretty impressive. As you may know, she scored more goals in the Olympics than any other woman water polo in its history. And as I said, graduated from Monte Vista High School, went to Stanford, where she participated in multiple championships for Stanford. And she comes from a water polo playing family. I was thinking about her achievements, and I saw on television a number of presentations of video clips of hometowns honoring the Olympic heroes that they've come home, and understanding in the COVID era and the fact that Maggie, like a lot of these athletes, has a professional schedule and lots of obligations, but some way for us to consider recognizing her, something like Welcome Home Maggie Day, or something in the future. I had visions of the parade, which is now the Kiwanis Parade, which will be happening soon, but that may not work out time-wise, and with the conditions of COVID and so on, to be able to at least put the initiative together or consider it for having some special recognition for her and her accomplishments, which are very, very impressive and really did put our little town on the map during the Olympics. So I hope you'll give it some consideration. I'll be glad to help if the opportunity comes up. Thank you.
Stuart, thank you so much for those comments. I wanted to also mention that the first time that she and her sister were in the Olympics, we did have a coming home ceremony for them, which was absolutely wonderful at Oak Hill Park. And obviously, being that possibly her schedule would be permitting, we might be doing the same thing again, but that's still up in the air. And at the same time, obviously, we have so many fine athletes that come from our community. So definitely would love to celebrate her and her achievements. So thank you for bringing that up as well. Marie, do we have any more speakers?
I do not see at this time any more raised hands, so I'll stop sharing my screen.
Okay, so that the good of the town, we're going to go ahead and move on then to item number 5, which is a presentation of the proclamation to Nicole Gimmer from the Danville's representative of the Contra Costa County Library Commission. And I'm going to pull up this right now, the proclamation. And if we could have, there's Nicole again. Welcome once again, Nicole, back. I'd like to take a moment just to read this to you and to everybody that's watching today. This proclamation is honoring the Danville's Library's 25th anniversary. Whereas public libraries are an accessible and inclusive place that foster a sense of belonging and the genuine pursuit of the American dream for all. And whereas the Danville Library is an institution of growth, opportunity, education, and the heart of the community with over 82 visits per hour, open 6 days a week and 56 hours per week. And whereas the service of the Danville Library extends far beyond the walls of its buildings to provide free resources, both in person and online, and through effective outreach services for our early readers, homebound patrons, which were a lot this past year and a half, and virtual learners as well, that are unique to the Danville Library. And whereas the Danville Library strives to develop programs and collections that are diverse as growing populations they serve and build equity through shared resources, boasting a collection of over 60,000 items with expanding language collections and the strength of knowledgeable staff supporting 4 different languages. And whereas in time of crisis, the Danville Library plays an invaluable and essential role in supporting learners of all ages with both in-person and virtual resources, essential technology, and free educational programs, bridging communities, culture, and generations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Danville Town Council does hereby acknowledge the 25th anniversary of the Danville Library and encourages all residents, readers, and library patrons to come together both in person and virtually to read, learn, discuss, and celebrate the Danville Library's 25th birthday with many special activities. In witness whereof, we can hereunto set our hands as the entire council this 17th day of August 2021. We so appreciate you being here. The library was closed for a certain amount of time, and I'm not going to say too much because I know you're presenting in a little bit to us as well. But I just want to say that, you know, when we think about reading and we think about paper and, you know, opening a book up and all of that, those are a lot of things that, you know, we've missed during the year and a half that we couldn't go check out a new book or any of those things. And so you kept everybody engaged, and we want to thank you for that. And celebrating 25 years in that particular location is so special to the community. And so we so appreciate you being here this evening and accepting this proclamation.
Thank you very much, Mayor Morgan and all of the town council. I really appreciate this proclamation, and on behalf of the community of learners in the town of Danville of all ages, thank you very much for these wonderful, kind words. And I'd like to also thank Sang Levan, our Danville branch librarian, and all her staff for really inspiring us throughout this year and all of the 25 years that we've had in that wonderful library facility. So thank you.
Thank you once again for being here, and we look forward to your presentation coming up here shortly. We'll go ahead and move on then to item number 7.2, which is another opportunity for all of us to listen to what's happening legislative wise. It's important for all of us to keep a pulse on the community, and we do a lot of outreach to make sure that our constituents are in the know of what's going on in Sacramento and beyond. And today we have legislative updates by our Deputy Town Manager, Diane Friedman.
Can I make a
Diane.
motion on the consent agenda?
Do we, you know what, we didn't do consent yet, Karen, and I
Right.
appreciate you bringing it up. Let's bring that back.
I'd like to
Let's-
move the consent agenda without, oh, you have to ask for comments without
so
6.4.
thank you so much. You know what I did is I'm flipping back and forth. I'm trying to do it
I
the
know.
digital non-paper way, and I appreciate that I have such conscientious council members along with me. So we did our proclamations. We're moved on to item number 6, which is our consent calendar. Is there anybody from the council that wishes to remove an item other than 6.4? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead. If there's anybody in the public, Marie, is there anybody that has their hand raised to remove an item from the consent calendar?
No speakers for the consent calendar.
Okay, so these items are considered a routine in nature and can be acted upon with one motion. And
And
Karen,
I'd like to make that motion for the consent agenda tonight from 6.1 to 6.8 without 6.4.
all right, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Marie, can we do a roll call?
Yes. Councilmember Fong,
Yes.
Councilmember Stepper,
Yes,
Councilmember Storer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Arnerich,
Yes.
and Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
And that's approved. The consent calendar is approved unanimously without 6.4.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And thank you, Councilmember Stepper, for bringing that back. We're gonna now move back into communications. Yeah, we'll move now into communications, and we're gonna bring back Nicole once again. And that's where I started reading from, was that particular moment. So 7.1 is Nicole. Welcome back once again. And we're looking forward to your report.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to give a report on the behalf of the Contra Costa County Library Commission. The 7 months since I've been appointed to the commission have been very active for the library system. For a start, in February, the interim county librarian, Allison McKee, was named permanently to the post of county librarian. Her leadership, energy, and enthusiasm has been infectious, both to the internal operations of the library system and to the fulfillment of the strategic vision for library services. Also in this time, the commission itself has grown, with the large majority of the open positions filled and all regions now represented. This has resulted in a breadth of new voices and points of view providing feedback to the county librarian. It has also resulted in the reinvigoration of advocacy at all levels of government to encourage continued funding of the library system. The primary focus of the commission feedback in recent months has been plans for the reopening of the library facilities and the new services that were rolled out during shelter in place. Activity at the Danville branch has grown from front door service that started in June 2020 to the reopening of the branch for grab and go service starting in April, and finally the return of near full operations at the branch in June. Some resources such as story time and book clubs remain as Zoom-based meetings, but the pandemic has brought more participants than ever to these events. In addition, the county library budget for this year included the expansion to county-provided opening hours system-wide from 36 hours a week to 40 hours a week, allowing the town to save this cost from its budget. Danville remains one of only 4 branches that are open the maximum 56 hours a week due to the town's support, which we thank you for. There are still areas such as the Friends Bookstore where service is working to get back to levels seen in pre-pandemic times. But it has been amazing to see the joy and energy as people return to the building for activities such as the 25th birthday celebration of the Danville branch that was held on August the 4th. Although the pandemic has provided numerous challenges to the library system, the Contra Costa County Library has shown the public new ways where these necessary resources can be reached. And the public has shown enthusiasm for the online platforms, with, for example, over 14,000 new electronic library cards issued in 2020 and an 800% increase in electronic views of the New York Times. Demand was also met by adding online access to popular resources such as Ancestry.com, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the Wall Street Journal. Other new offerings, such as mobile hotspots that can be checked out from the library, have been very popular across the system, including in Danville. This brings a new challenge and focus to strategic planning, namely how to maintain and grow engagement across all platforms, both in physical library resources and through online service, in order to meet patrons where they are and where they feel most comfortable. One of the focus areas of the Library Commission is advocacy, especially related to funding for libraries and library programs, such as Link Plus, the Lunch in the Library program, Career Online High School, and others. I have had the privilege to be active in meeting and communicating with federal, state, and local representatives to highlight the critical role the library plays in our communities. This has included emphasizing the benefit of services that share library resources across the state and the need for funds to build and update library infrastructure. It has been a great year for advocacy in the state of California, as the budget surplus has enabled the restoration of library funding cuts from 2020, has solidified ongoing funding for the Lunch in the Library program on an annual basis, and has authorized $439 million in grants through the state library to modernize library facilities statewide. The budget also included $35 million to expand broadband services through libraries to hard-to-reach areas. Federal infrastructure funding is still being debated as we speak, but is expected to include additional funds to expand broadband services from libraries and to improve library facilities. I can only hope that this success and advocacy can be carried forward to every year that I work with the Library Commission. I believe that for bad or good, the pandemic highlighted the services that are necessary for all of us to grow, to thrive, and to be connected with those that help us learn. And it underscored the critical role that the library plays in the vitality of a community such as ours, be it in sparking imagination, gaining job skills, or connecting with others to gain the inspiration to learn something new. Taking the opportunity to increase funding and access to these services will provide a strong foundation and resilience in our community, with resources that can be accessed anytime, anywhere. And at the county level, new opportunities to increase funding have become available through Measure X, which was passed by the voters last November. Contra Costa County provides the lowest per capita funding to its library system as compared to all of the neighboring counties in the Bay Area. The addition of the Measure X funds would mitigate some of this underfunding, and the county librarian has proposed that the funds be allowed to allow all branches to be open 56 hours across the library system, an additional potential cost savings for the town of Danville. I hope you find these changes and opportunities for expansion as exciting as I do, and I encourage you to join me in supporting this proposal and the bills at the state and federal level to sustain our library infrastructure. I want to thank you all for your partnership and for allowing me to represent Danville on this commission, and I look forward to keeping you informed and engaged in the success of the library within our community. Is there any questions that I can answer for you?
Nicole, thank you for that really comprehensive report. We really so appreciate it. Are there any questions or comments for Nicole? Well, once again, oh, I've got Robert's hand up. I'm sorry. You got you on mute there. I've got my shirt on.
Sorry about that. Nicole, thank you for the report. Always an excellent report. And I know how important the library was to my kids and all their friends. But this is a question that maybe I should know the answer to this, but if you have a family that has a great deal of used books, will the library take used books, or is there another avenue to reuse them, repurpose them?
Yep, and one thing that you point out is the Friends Bookstore. So that's something we're still waiting for that one to come back to the service level that we've seen pre-pandemic times. the Friends is separate from the library, but still is a critical resource, and we all have our used books all sitting around. So, it's underway. I would say, just be a little bit more patient. That group is still working hard to get their service levels up. But hopefully we'll have some good news in terms of all being able to bring in our used books for the Friends to sell sometime this fall.
Great, thank you.
Great question. Karen?
I just want to say, Nicole, it was delightful when we interviewed you. We've had some good people come through the libraries, really dedicated. I can't say anyone matches your enthusiasm. And I love the gold, yes, all up and down the library picture behind you, because it makes me think that it is a celebratory year. It was awesome. I remember going back many years ago in 2006, we had the 10th. I can't believe we had the 10th anniversary. It seems like yesterday. And here this is the 25th. And it brought culture together, and it brought dancing and song and all things that can be read or can be done orally. And I love the mix that you're bringing to everybody in the community. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Karen.
So Nicole, just as you know, we're supportive of the library and of you as well. If there's anything us as council members can do to help with the 25th anniversary, please let us know. We are here for you, and vice versa. We're looking forward to working with you for quite some time. So thank you so much for the report, and thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Now we're going to go ahead and move on from there to item 7.2. And I wanted to bring Diane on so fast that I just skipped everything just so I could have our deputy town manager join us this evening. So once again, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is our deputy town manager, Diane Friedman.
Thank you, Mayor Morgan. I actually thought that was a trick agenda item a few minutes ago. Good evening, Town Council. I am pleased to be before you to present this legislative update. Yesterday, August 16th, was the legislature's first day back from summer recess. This is what I refer to as the legislature entering the final sprint to the finish of the 2021 legislative session. This week, bills that have a financial impact to the state will be heard in the Assembly Appropriations Committee on Thursday, August 19th. The Assembly Appropriations Committee hears more bills than any other committee in the state legislature. Can you hear me okay, Mayor Morgan? Okay, just checking in. On August 27th, or next Friday, it is the last day for bills to be heard in their respective houses before they go back to their house of origin, or where they were first introduced in the 2021 session. Once the bills are back in their house of origin from August 30th to September 10th, both the Assembly and the Senate will hear bills on the floor. As of September 10th, the bills that continue to move forward will go to the governor's desk, where he has 30 days to veto or sign the bills. All bills that are signed by the governor are then chaptered into law by the Secretary of State and take effect on January 1st, 2022. This year, we have a recall election on September 14th, which means that the bills that will arrive on the governor's desk, they will arrive 4 days before the election takes place. After the September 14th election, county election officials have 30 days to certify the election results. And if the governor is recalled, the new governor will then be sworn in and will finish out the current governor's term, which ends January 2nd, 2023. The election will have no impact on the bills that go to the governor's desk. If the governor were to be recalled, he can still sign the bills until October 10th under a lame duck status. Housing production remains a top priority of the legislature, which is focused on creating housing affordability by imposing new requirements on local governments. To meet an estimated 1.8 million new homes by 2025, the state will need to significantly outperform current production, estimated at 80,000 new homes annually. This is according to the Department of Housing and Community Development. Many of these bills will impact Danville's ability to plan for housing development as we have in the past. Designed to supersede local zoning, these bills create housing density, streamline the approval process for housing developments, and create density infill by eliminating single-family zoning. The town continues to monitor state housing legislation, including the bills within the Senate Pro Tem Tony Atkins Building Opportunities for All Housing package. The following is an update on the bills contained within this package. Senate Bill 6, referred to as the Neighborhood Homes Act. It authorizes residential development on existing lots that are currently zoned for commercial office and retail space, such as strip malls or large big box retail spaces that are not adjacent to industrial zones. We have now been informed that this bill is now a 2-year bill, so that is good news for us. Senate Bill 8, we were opposed to that bill. Senate Bill 8, the Housing Crisis Act of 2019. It extends SB 330, the Housing Crisis Act, from expiration in 2025 to 2030. This bill is aimed at streamlining the production of housing. It freezes development-related fees upon a builder's submission of a preliminary application. It sets a cap on the number of public hearings for a housing development and prohibits local agencies from any actions that would reduce housing capacity. This bill is currently still moving forward and will be heard in the Assembly Appropriations meeting this Thursday. Senate Bill 9, which is the California Housing Opportunity and More Efficiency Act, promotes small-scale neighborhood residential development, also referred to as missing middle or gentle density housing, by streamlining the process for a homeowner to create 2 same-size units on a single family lot, or subdivide an existing single-family lot into 2 lots to create additional housing. SB 9 language at a minimum allows for 4 full-size houses where 1 sits now. SB 9 eliminates single-family zoning in California. There were amendments to SB 9 that were introduced this week to the bill. The first amendment is a local agency may deny an urban lot split if the building official makes a written finding that the proposed development project would have a specific adverse impact upon public health and safety or the physical environment, and for which there is no feasible mitigation option. The second amendment introduced is that it modifies current language that allows a local government to impose a 1-year residency requirement for an applicant of a residential lot split, to require local governments to impose a 3-year residency requirement for a residential lot split. And then it also removes the 5-year sunset bill provision from the bill, but that is a little bit of mitigating language in the bill that we are happy to see. This bill still continues to move forward in the Assembly. The Tri-Valley Cities Coalition of Livermore, Pleasanton, Dublin, San Ramon, and the town of Danville, in partnership with our lobbyist, Townsend Public Affairs, has implemented a floor alert strategy this week in the Assembly, specifically related to SB 9. The floor alert strategy for SB 9 includes identifying Assembly members who voted to oppose or abstain from voting on SB 1120 during last year's legislative session. The reason our lobbyist Townsend did this for reference is that SB 1120 is almost the identical bill to SB 9 in this year's legislative session. Townsend has also identified Assembly members who have weighed in on SB 9 through committee hearings who were no vote, abstained from voting, or could be a swing vote opportunity. Townsend will actively be sharing TVC Coalition opposed comments with the legislative directors of each of the Assembly members and their offices, and advocating on behalf of the Tri-Valley Cities Coalition in opposition of SB 9 over the next 8 days that the bill is in the Assembly. Specifically, comments relating to the scope of the regulations in reference to single-family residential zones, due to the fact it provides no definition for such zones. If intended to apply to any zones in which single-family residential development is permitted, the scope of the regulations we feel could be extremely broad. The second comment is the setback language of a minimum of 4 foot at the side and rear yard is inadequate to protect neighbors from large and intrusive buildings from affecting light, privacy, and enjoyment of their homes. Jurisdiction should be allowed to establish appropriate setbacks tailored to the size of the lots and to structures that may be built under SB 9. The other comment is the exemption in the bill from minimum parking standards. They're too broad and unrealistic or inappropriate for communities where car ownership is necessary. SB 9 also continues to contain too many loopholes that will allow a savvy developer to take advantage of the relaxed standards to reap the windfall over densifying a neighborhood using serial lot splits. It also disallows local jurisdictions from requiring dedicated right-of-ways or offset improvements. The lot splits and upzoning allowed by SB 9 provides a windfall for property owners and developers, while relieving many of them of the basic obligations required with subdivisions and intensification of use. These burdens will fall on local governments and taxpayers to address. And the final one of the most important comments regarding SB 9 is that California needs low and extremely low income housing. SB 9 does not require additional units that are being built to be affordable. As such, this bill will not reduce pricing in higher income areas and may even exacerbate gentrification in distressed or lower income areas. This bill is currently in the Assembly Appropriations Committee and will be heard on Thursday. And as I mentioned, our lobbyist Townsend will continue to advocate and share our comments and do what we can to mitigate and oppose this bill. The last bill in the Pro Tem's housing package is SB 10, which would authorize a local government to pass an ordinance to zone any parcel for up to 10 units of residential density per parcel, if the parcel is in a transit-rich area or an urban infill site. This bill removes the ability of voters to pass a ballot initiative to override these decisions. This bill was also amended to reflect the following changes. It removes the ability to pass such an ordinance if the voter initiative designates publicly owned land for open space, park, or recreational purposes. And the amendments override any provision of the plan developments documents, including covenant and CC&Rs. And also, the last amendment requires a 2/3 vote instead of a simple majority of local elected officials to pass such ordinances. This bill is currently awaiting a vote on the Assembly floor. In addition, we have a few other housing bills, AB 215. This bill, starting with the 6th housing element revision, would require the Department of HCD to determine the relative progress toward meeting regional housing needs of each jurisdiction and the Council of Governments. We also oppose this bill. AB 602, which also creates further restrictions on development fees, would require that impact fees, nexus studies must identify existing level of service and the proposed new level of service and explain why the new level of service is appropriate. We also oppose this bill. Other bills that we are monitoring under sales and taxation, SB 792. SB 792 would require retailers whose online sales exceeds 1 million per year to track and report to the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration the city or zip code where the purchaser resides for each sale within the state that is transacted online. We are in support of this bill. This is a critical first step in the process of online sales tax reform, which will shine the light on a major growing problem in California local finance. This bill is currently going to Assembly Appropriations on Thursday. Under public safety and mental health, AB 43, which is a traffic safety bill, which we support. It authorizes Caltrans and local authorities on streets where a 65-mile-per-hour limit is applicable to lower the speed limit to as low as 15 miles per hour pursuant to engineering traffic studies. It provides greater flexibility to local jurisdictions to set speed limits below 25 miles per hour in school zones, near senior centers, and along busy, active business districts. And Also under public safety and mental health is AB 988, which is the mental health bill from Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Cahan that we have been closely watching. This bill would require the Office of Emergency Services to take actions to implement a hotline system, designating a 988 crisis hotline center or centers to provide crisis intervention services and crisis care coordinations to individuals accessing the 988 hotline. This bill was designated as an urgency bill, which allowed it to come out of the committee process to facilitate ongoing discussions and negotiations about the actual bill language with telecoms and stakeholders. Proposed amendments are designed to secure the most crucial elements of AB 988, including preparing call centers to accept calls beginning July 16, 2022, when 988 goes live, ensuring there is a framework for how 988 is developed and implemented, and securing funding for life-saving services. The next stop for this bill, when it is ready to come back into committee, would be the Energy, Utilities, and Communications Committee in the Senate. An urgency bill, as a reminder, requires a 2/3 vote instead of a simple majority. We are continuing to monitor this bill. Under Environment, SB 619, the Organic Waste Reduction Regulations, a bill that we support. It would require the Department of Resources, Recycling, and Recovery until January 1, 2023 to only impose a penalty on local jurisdictions, and would require a penalty to only accrue for violations of regulations in regard to SB 1383, which is a very important bill for us, since SB 1383, that component is going to kick in on January 1st of 2022. This bill is currently in the Assembly Appropriations Committee. Under Transportation, SB 548, a bill that we support, would require the Tri-Valley San Joaquin Valley Regional Rail Authority to be considered a rail transit district, thereby exempting the authority from specified provisions related to regulations by county and cities regarding building, zoning, and related matters. This bill is also currently headed for Assembly Appropriations, and that is in regards to our Valley Link project. Under Public Utilities, a bill that we oppose, streetlights, poles, traffic signals regarding small cell wireless facilities. This measure requires local governments to make space available to telecommunications providers without recognizing local authority to manage the public right-of-way preserved under federal law. We also oppose this bill. It is also heading to Assembly Appropriations. Moving on to other advocacy updates, the TVC Coalition meeting on July 28th was hosted by the City of San Ramon via Zoom and featured legislative updates from Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Cahan's office, Senator Steve Glazer's office, a legislative advocacy update from our lobbyist, Townsend Public Affairs, and a featured presentation by a housing policy specialist from the Department of Housing and Community Development. Moving on to federal advocacy, the Senate passed a $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill last week. The bill still needs to go through the House. Unfortunately, the TVC coalition earmarks that were submitted as part of this bill were stripped out during the Senate negotiations around this bill. This includes Valley Link funding. The town's earmarks, the request, are still included in the traffic signal modernization project, and the Iron Horse Trail pedestrian improvement projects are still included in a separate transportation and housing urban development bill. Final resolution of these requests of this bill is scheduled to occur sometime this fall, and we are closely monitoring this bill. As of August 12th, or on August 12th, the mayors from the Tri-Valley Cities Coalition participated in federal advocacy meetings with Congressman Eric Swalwell, State Director Jim Lazaris from Senator Feinstein's office, Staff from the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, including 2 members from the Subcommittee on Rail, and Deputy State Director Daniel Chen from Senator Padilla's office. The mayors discussed important topics to the region, including COVID-19 recovery, economic development, transportation and infrastructure funding for the Iron Horse Trail Project, the Valley Link Project, and major highways, public safety and mental health funding, and continued to ask that the earmarks be reinstated into the infrastructure bill that is now being negotiated in the House. The mayors will participate in a second round of federal advocacy meetings on August 30th with staff members from the House Appropriations Committee, the U.S. Department of Transportation, Congressman Mark DeSaulnier, and the U.S. Department of Energy. The next legislative committee meeting is next Tuesday, August 24th. That concludes my report, and I will turn it back over to you, Mayor Morgan, for any questions or comments.
Very thorough. Thank you so much. And such an important time right now in the legislation, especially with them going back into session yesterday. It's important that we're all advocating and out there, and Danville is definitely doing that. Is there any questions or comments right now for Diane? Robert?
Diane, thank you. Excellent report as always. If somebody that wanted to support or oppose a bill, let's say SB 9, what would be the best way for the Danville residents to do that?
The most impactful way right now that a resident can weigh in on SB 9 would be to call Assembly Member Rebecca Bauer-Cahan's office and also Senator Steve Glazer's office. Assembly Member Rebecca Bauer-Cahan will be taking part in a vote to move this bill off the Assembly floor by September 10th. So now would be the time to make phone calls. And then it will be moving back to the Senate, where Senator Glazer will also be weighing in on the bill on the Senate side. So those would be, if a resident wants to weigh in, those would be the 2 most impactful ways.
Great, thank you.
Karen?
Just wanted to make a comment. Diane asked how it was going with, I know you're also available to present some of this information to other groups in the community and service clubs, and hopefully you're getting some things on your calendar.
Yes. In fact, we presented to the Kiwanis Club, I believe it may have even been this week. And that did generate a phone call on SB 9 to Assembly Member Rebecca Bauer-Cahan's office. So whenever we have an opportunity to do a pocket meeting and go out to groups, we are definitely advocating on behalf of these bills.
Thank you. It's still the best thing to give out at farmers market is those things that you've written about this. Excellent.
Newell?
And Diane, thanks for all the leadership and the hard work. It's complex, and the bills that you mentioned that we're watching is just a fraction of the 2,500 plus that are out there. Amazing that life is that complicated. Every year we have to pass that many, but they'd pass more if there wasn't the limitation that they put on themselves. I was going to say, I think probably the fastest thing people could do right now is email, and you can only email through the portals, and they use those portals as a voting system. So if you put on the topic SB 9 and you say oppose, that goes as a vote for opposition. They really watch that, every person. And for our local lawmakers who might be inclined to pass it along to the next committee, as they always say, they need some support for those oppositions that are really strong. So I would actually say, I think we ought to be posting this along with all of our other, to actually post the link of how to do it, to click on it, and in all of our information about the arena numbers and things, because it's all related to this. If these come through, then it's going to be for naught for the efforts we're trying to do is to control our community. So I really just want to say thank you, Diane. And I know it's just an incredibly fast moving target. But thank you for the work that you're doing. Thanks for coordinating with all the other Tri-Valley cities as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Arnerich.
Dave?
Yeah, and again, thank you, Diane, for a really comprehensive update. And as Noel, as others have said, you know, when you're dealing with 2,500 bills, it's really hard to dissect and understand what's relevant and what's not, and what's important, what's not. And I know the community appreciates all you're doing to keep us updated. And as a note to that, you know, with the housing element and the RENA numbers, you know, congrats to you and your team for getting the word out there and educating the community. I mean, there is a lot of momentum, a lot of conversation, and probably the most common question or most frequently asked question is, what can our community do to support Danville in its opposition on the RENA numbers? Because, you know, they get it and they want to help, but they just don't know how. And I guess the question to you is there a way, or how can our community help in supporting our appeal on the RENA numbers?
I think maybe the appeal has already been submitted, and I don't know, Rob, if you have any thoughts on, is there anything at this point that our community can do to support it?
Yeah, I think what we could perhaps do, I don't know if there's a way for the public to submit emails to the ABAG board. We can look into that, and if there is, we could certainly put it up on the website. I have not seen that availability on ABAG's website for the public to weigh in other than actually attending the meeting, but that should be pretty easy to figure out if there is a way, and we could certainly put that on the website.
Yeah, I would support that. That momentum is building, and we have a very active and intelligent community, and they want to help. They just need to know how. So appreciate anything we can do to support our community and getting the word out and communicating on their behalf.
Sure.
Councilmember Fong, the other thing that I thought of is that we are still in the process, and the Legislative Audit Committee meets on August 24th, and Senator Glazer we did submit information to Senator Glazer on how we thought there needed to be an audit of the RENA process as far as how the numbers are calculated. And that's next week. So perhaps there's something that we can set out in support of momentum to actually have an audit completed on that.
Great suggestion. Thank you.
Okay. I think it's also important to note that, and it should be noted that the town, as well as the mayor, town council, we are continuously writing letters of our position within these bills. And so, and that speaks volumes. We also work directly with the Tri-Valley mayors, which would be Livermore, Dublin, Pleasanton, and San Ramon. We are bigger in numbers, and therefore when we meet in these type of meetings with our legislation, it's really important that they hear where we're coming from, since we are the voice of the community as well, to let them know our positioning. And like you said, we've had one meeting so far, and I'd like to mention that one of the takeaways from it was when we were meeting with Diane Feinstein's group of people, we mentioned the Iron Horse Trail, because obviously funding for Iron Horse Trail and trying to get that not just in legislation but just in funding, and a lot of them don't even know what the Iron Horse Trail was. And so one of the things that we'll be doing is getting photographs so that they understand the thoroughfare that it has and the connectivity that it does for our communities. And so these are things that the council, as well as Diane with her guidance as well, we continuously advocate at a local and a state level. So just to reassure the public that we are doing everything we can to make sure that we keep Danville straight and narrow, and we get what we need to have happen for our community and local control. So Diane, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, Mayor Morgan, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for everything. And thank you for the opportunity to set up all these meetings and to work with Townsend. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 8, which is our town council reports. And item 8.1 is to appoint one council member as a voting delegate and one council member as an alternate voting delegate for the Cal Cities Annual Conference, which is actually taking place live this year on September 22nd through the 24th. And members of the council will be traveling up to the Sacramento area. I know that Dave Fong will be going. Robert Storr will not be going. Karen, will you be going?
I'm not sure yet. Sorry, no, I'm not sure what days, but if I do, I'll drive on that day.
Okay, and then Newell will be, Newell will be going as well. Okay, so the only council member that will not be going is Robert, but and I said that it was like a stab, wasn't it? The only one that's not going is Robert.
I'll stay here and help run the town while everybody's in Sacramento doing really good work.
Okay, I think Joe does just fine with that. But anyways, excuse not taken. Anyways, so we're going to go ahead and appoint 2 people, and since the mayor and vice mayor are both going, I'm assuming we'll go ahead and appoint the mayor and vice mayor as voting delegates.
I'd be happy to make that motion to appoint the mayor.
Yeah, and I'll second that.
Sorry. Okay, so I would make the mayor our voting delegate, and our alternate would be our vice mayor, Newell Arnrich.
Great, fantastic. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor and we have a second. Marie?
Yes. Councilmember Fong,
Yes.
Councilmember Stepper,
Yes.
Councilmember Storr,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Arnrich,
Yes.
and Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
And it was unanimous to dedicate Renee, Mayor Morgan as the voting delegate and Vice Mayor Arnrich as the alternate voting delegate.
Great, thank you. We'll go ahead and move on then to item 8.2, which is our Senior Advisory Commission, and we have a report by our Vice Mayor.
Very exciting. Last Friday, from 1 p.m. till 3:30 on a Friday afternoon, the entire commission met. Myself as liaison, our staff members that support our senior commission, senior activities, and our consultant met to do the first working workshop to bring back the results of the intercept surveys, the surveys as a whole that they did, on identifying what are the needs from our community that are important for seniors. And it was a brainstorming session. There was also breakout sessions that were during that 2.5 hours. And I think it actually did a really good job to, one, get our commissioners focused, feeling that things really are moving forward. You know, this was all kind of done during COVID, so it's been a challenge. But I think the information that was presented was fairly indicative, I think, of what you might have at a gut level reaction of what the needs are in our community, but also some other ones, particularly around transportation for seniors, and about being able to age in place and the barriers to that. So this is just the first of a series of meetings. So we'll be having a presentation that will be coming to the council eventually as they get there. But I think our consultant that we have, this is the first time I got to see them really live. I think they're doing a really good job, and they're very good at facilitating conversations and try to coalesce ideas and break them up into the right boxes. So I think it's going to be exciting, and I think our commissioners are the right people at the right time to help move this forward. That's it.
Yeah, a great senior commission. We definitely have that. Are there any questions or comments as well about that? Okay, let's go ahead and move on then to item 8.3, which is our Danville Area Chamber of Commerce Liaison Report, and that is by myself as well as Newell. Newell, did you want to start?
Well, I think you ought to go first, but before you do, because I think you ought to talk about the walkabout, visiting business. But I do want to share with everybody. I just had a conversation for about a half hour today with one of our major property owners that owns retail offices and a variety of things around town. And the comments that this person made about a job that is so well done compared to where they own other properties in other cities was so commendable that he really praised the town, the staff, and the council for stepping up to really try to help businesses and staying focused on that. He said a lot of other communities do a little thing and they walk away thinking that it's all solved. And I think this leads right into what the mayor was doing in getting a walkabout. And Mayor, why don't you share those thoughts?
So, and I so agree with you that the also the information that I received from the community and the business community in particular is, you know, they feel comfortable enough to pick up the phone and call us. And I think that's also an important aspect of the relationship that we share with our business community. So one of the things that we wanted to do was take an opportunity to walk to all the businesses and kind of get a feel of what everybody's experiencing out there. And I know, Karen, maybe you could just share a quick brief summary.
It probably reflects on all of you, but it was really great to go in the latter part of the afternoon and find how many owners were in these stores and retailers and restaurants, because often it's hard to find those people. But, you know, I think with COVID, it's been very hard on them, and they're the ones on the floor, understand all the questions, and they had questions far beyond what we expected for the chamber because they had their individuals. So they were very grateful that the council has been listening and that they were taking the time to go around, and the chamber was taking the time to go around to find out what those questions were, not the ones that we thought of to ask, but the ones they want to ask. So it was very well done. Thank you.
Yeah, and Dave, you've had an opportunity as well. I mean, I know that you did quite a few different shopping centers. I looked at the sign-up sheet and I saw your name almost on every single one. So you really, took the bull by the horn on this one. What did you find?
Yeah, and I want first, it was fun, and unfortunately, I don't really want to take credit for having hit every single business in every one of the centers. I think I got a good representation of the feedback from the businesses and from the restaurants. And I want to thank and compliment both Judy and Tim Argenti from the chamber on joining me for those walks. It was not only representative of Danville, but I think just representative who really cares about the businesses that are out there. And we had a chance to visit some of the more satellite centers, and they were very welcoming. I mean, it was like we walk in and it was like it's time to unload, and they really did share their thoughts and perspectives, but more importantly, how they felt they could help us as we help them. And I would say a common comment that we heard was, help us hire people. We're short of people. The pandemic took away a lot of workers. We're now transitioning back. We just need a vehicle to be able to communicate openings and be able to hopefully hire more so we can better serve our public, because right now, whether it's restricted hours or help, it really is limiting what they can do to really help help our community continue to transition back to normal. And I know Judy is working on with the town on developing a job fair, and also talking with Jill and with Leanna regarding some way of being able to communicate on behalf of the businesses, job postings and openings that may be available out there.
Yeah, it's interesting to see your comment that you made in reference to some of the businesses that are closing because they can't find help. And here we are, we have a pandemic, and we would think it was because of that, but it's not. So, I just wanted to commend the chamber and all their hard work, and, Judy, as well as Tim and all of her people that are on the boards and all that. Another thing that they're doing that is live and in person is the ribbon cuttings. We had to cancel, I believe they had to cancel one, but not because of the chamber, but the business wasn't ready for the ribbon cutting yet. But the next one is on August 23rd, which is for I Can Do That Dance Studio. And it's so much more. It's a theater and everything else. and it's at 5:30. If you're interested in going to any of the chamber events or getting more information on the chamber as well, I mean, you can visit their website at the Danville Area Chamber. But it's a great opportunity to work with the town as well as the chamber on events and some of the things they have coming up, like they're looking for the October event to take place, the lighting of the oak tree. People don't realize that they're the ones that are steering the wheel on that one as well. So that's all we have on the chamber, unless somebody has any questions. We'll go ahead and move on then to 8.4, which is town council updates. Does anybody have any updates that we have not mentioned as of yet? Karen.
Well, I wanted, because the town is part of this, is that the Oak Hill Park is going to put on the 9/11 ceremony, and using Monte Vista Choir and people that we've heard before. It's certainly a different atmosphere right now. I'm not sure what that means, except that people are more than welcome to volunteer and help not only Exchange Club people, but other people in the community have volunteered to help with getting out signs and information. So I just wanted to say it's an outdoor activity, and whatever we have to do to make sure that people are staying safe, that's what we'll do. So thank you.
And
And
to
so
what
it's at
you're,
4:30. It starts at 4:20 on September 11th, which is a Saturday, with a flyover and the scouts coming in. It'll be over by 5:30 so that people can go downtown to have dinner.
perfect. Perfect. And if you have not attended one of these events, you're truly missing out. This is something that we never want to forget. And the Exchange Club does a wonderful job with the entire program. So thank you so much for leading that as well. Are there any other town council updates? Okay, seeing none, everybody have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you for joining us this evening.